I have here something that could have started a cult. It's something that became really popular in a way that no new smartphone could have ever done before. I have the flagship version of the Poco F1. This phone, when it came out, really stirred the pot and really troubled a lot of flagship players. This phone could have also been something that would have put Poco right up there on the map, but they failed to deliver in the resulting years, and they sort of left this device to sort of remain a classic, a remembrance, a memorial of supremacy of existence that once was. But then they tried to come back with certain devices, and this time around they have this big departure from this, but this is the Poco F5. Now, it's been out for 2 weeks, and you've probably seen tons of reviews praising this device, but it's time for an iGyaan style review. So let's get into it. Before we get started with this video, guys, make sure to hit the like button and leave a comment below. And if you're new here and do end up liking the content, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification icon so that you get all updates from iGyaan. Let's get into the video. So if we talk about the build quality, first of all, they call this snowflake white, snowstorm white. And this is a color that, I mean, in contrast to this rugged looking Kevlar carbon fiber finish, this is a little less of that. But hey, it's a plastic back, so at least it won't shatter. And the frame is also plastic, but there's no flex in the phone. I mean, it bends a little, but it returns. It does have a little bit of a squeaky sound, if you can hear that. So it does have that creaking sound because of the plastic build. So not the best in terms of build, especially with that squeaking sound. But hey, it is what it is. On the front, you do have an AMOLED display, 6.67-inch AMOLED display with 68 billion colors. You have Gorilla Glass 5 on the front. You've got a 2400 by 1080 pixel display, which is Full HD plus, and then this has 120 hertz of refresh rate. And then it has a 500 nit typical brightness, but it does have a peak brightness of 1000 nits, and it does support HDR10 plus. So it's a pretty good display, and viewing angles are nice on this. Color is also great. We've enjoyed using this display, and no complaints with the display whatsoever. In fact, if you look closely into the display, you'll see how flat it looks. It almost looks like the display is fused with the glass, and they've done a good job of that, because in most phones, especially curved phones, you can see that the display looks like it's a little further away from the glass, but here it looks like you're almost touching the icons, because they've done a good job of fusing the glass with the display here. So you do have a little bit of a chin here, and the top you do have a little bit of a forehead. This also has a little bit of a chin, but because of the curves, the sides look almost seamless, so it looks better that way. This one, because it's flat, it gives you a little more of a chin. So coming back to the build quality, it doesn't have an IP rating, which is anything that you should stand by, because it has IP53, so basic splash resistance. This, in contrast, the Moto Edge 40, which just came out, has IP68, but this has a lot of things that the Moto Edge is missing out on. So we'll get into those aspects in just a second. What you have inside is also MIUI 14. So out of the box, you have MIUI, but lots of bloatware that you can uninstall some of them, but some you cannot. So typical Xiaomi fashion, certain apps are removable, but a lot of bloatware, some ads in there. So not the cleanest user interface. And of course, MIUI, you have a lot of customization available and a lot of MIUI specific features, including for managing audio and gestures and things like that. If you talk about performance, this has a Snapdragon Series 7 Gen 2 chip. So a fairly new chip, and benchmarks are really impressive on this. So in comparison to Motorola, which has a MediaTek 8020, the score of benchmarks is a contrast between both of these devices. And this one definitely excels in terms of performance on synthetic benchmarks. And then you also see that performance in day-to-day use, as well as in playing games or just running through multiple applications. This manages all of that really well. This has a 4 nanometer chip, the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2, and then you do get Adreno 725 as the GPU. Because of the plastic frame and because of the plastic back panel, you will not feel any kind of heat coming through. And in our thermal imaging as well, we didn't find any kind of heat being generated to the point where the device will become uncomfortable. So it manages that heat well. You've also got two variations with 8GB or 12GB of RAM, but only 256GB of storage with no memory card slot. As far as the battery is concerned, we've got a 5000 milliamp hour battery with fast charging and a 67 watt charger inside the box. Again, missing it by just 2 points. Here, Poco, let iGyaan fix this for you as well. As far as battery management is concerned, it manages fantastically the battery. Still about 21 hours remaining. Gives you about a good 6 hours of screen on time with medium to moderate usage. And battery charges also really quickly. In about 45 minutes, you get a full charge with the 67 watt charger, which is included inside the box. So battery life is pretty phenomenal on this. Again, with good optimizations and less heat, thanks to the 4 nanometer chip, you're getting really good battery performance from the Poco F5. So you've got stereo speakers, but the sound is not as full as we'd expect. Again, if I compare it with this, the Moto Edge 40 has a slightly better sound, not the best again, but slightly better. This is a little muffled up. And you already saw a teaser of that on our Instagram, and if you haven't, go check it out. It's really cool. But go check out our AI video, it's really cool. But coming back to the situation here. So the phone does support 5G networks, and the earpiece is pretty good for calls. And if you want an example of what the microphone sounds like, I will do that right now. So here is a sample of what the audio sounds like on the microphone during a call. And if you want a sound of what the earpiece sounds like, I'll give it to you in just 1 second. So here is what the incoming audio sounds like on this phone. So enjoy. So calls have been consistent. Network is pretty good. It does support Wi-Fi calling as well. So we've had no issues with calls. In fact, we get really good signal indoors as well. So if you look at our network bar right now, it's actually full. So network strength is pretty good on this device, and it manages well thanks to the plastic body. So there are pros and cons. The pro being that network at least will not be a problem, or at least the network reception will not be a problem. The networks are another story altogether. Let's talk about cameras. One thing I would like to point out is that this phone, which is supposedly 5 generations old, does 4K 60 video. This does only 4K 30 video. Food for thought? Think about it. At the back, we've got 3 cameras, and you know that one of them is garbage. So we've got a 64 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera. Those are fine. The garbage happens at the macro side, which is a 2 megapixel macro camera. I don't understand for the life of me why companies don't want to give up on this sensor. A lot of companies have, but a lot of them don't want to. Anyway, you also have a pretty good flash over here. Images are really good out of the box, and video also looks good. We've compared it in certain cases with the Moto Edge 40. So you'll see those samples on the screen, and in certain cases the Moto Edge 40 performs better, and in other cases the Poco performs better, and then you guys can be the judge of the rest. Watch out for these samples. So the camera also has a pro mode in which you can customize what you are taking as far as your picture is concerned, and then you also have all of these other modes, and you do have a dedicated 64 megapixel mode here as well. Then it does AI photography. So if you turn on AI, it'll sort of recognize plants or clouds or whatever. So here it detects a plant and it wants to take a picture of that. So it manages those kind of things well. Focus is good. So in conclusion, apart from a few misses, especially with the build, the waterproofing, the lack of proper wattage on the battery charger, the phone is a pretty good device, and performance-wise it's pretty impressive. Price-wise it is pretty good. It is a direct competitor of the Moto Edge 40, I feel. And while the Moto Edge 40 does look much more premium and feels premium with the metal body, glass, the plastic is still on the back, but the glass, because of the edge, feels nice. The cameras are also pretty good, not as good as the Poco in certain cases. And video quality is both do 4K 30 FPS. This also does 1080 at 120 FPS. I think A major selling point for this is the 3.5mm headphone jack. One feature that may sort of move the needle across for a lot of people is this one. You do have an IR blaster as well. So those kind of things do push it above, but it still misses out on a lot. But it's a good option in this price bracket, and then you can weigh in both the options and see which one suits you better. This does have a larger battery as well. This has 1 watt less of charging as well, but it's a pretty good, well-balanced device despite missing out on a few things. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.